Hello, I'm Dent May, and today I'll be reading Faulty Memory is a Feature, Not a Bug by Cody Kommers from Nautilus magazine. In the 1940s, the writer Jorge Luis Borges published a short story about a man named Ireneo Funes, who has fallen off his horse, hitting his head, and leaving him housebound. Funes asks the narrator of the story to borrow some books written in Latin. A few days later, when the narrator goes to collect his books, he finds that Funes has memorized, in just a matter of days, long and complicated passages in Latin, despite no prior knowledge of the language. Funes says that ever since the accident, his memory has changed. He no longer can forget. As Funes describes it, his experience is now one of intolerable richness and sharpness. Sleep eludes him. The narrator suspects Funes was not very capable of thought. To think is to forget differences, generalize, make abstractions. In this short story, Borges anticipated what modern neuroscience has since evidenced. We make our way through the world precisely because we forget, generalize, and make abstractions. The act of memory is an act of imagination. Memory allows us to imagine not just the future, but to take alternative perspectives on the present. We use the building blocks of memory to imagine the thoughts or experience of another and to see our present surroundings or situation in novel ways. This memory-based simulation allows us to produce creative solutions to myriad problems. Over the past decade, our understanding of memory's role in creativity has grown. Researchers have linked false memories and forgetting to creative performance. And recently, one team published a paper that suggests memory plays an extensive part in every stage of the creative process. Creative ideation is supported by the controlled retrieval of memories, they wrote. Marcel Proust would certainly agree. Misremembering and forgetting allow for the cognitive flexibility required by imagination. If we remembered every single bit of our experience in a rote, fixed way, we would not be able to pull bits from here and there to build a vision of something totally new. The brain has to fill in the gaps. These gaps evidently are very important, but how does the human brain know where to leave them and when it's worth recording in painstaking detail? How does it know what to forget? The fact is, as far as your brain is concerned, almost nothing is worth keeping. The first thing we do with most of the information we take in about the world is to forget it. Cognitive psychologists typically distinguish between three stores of memory, each of which catalogs information on a different timescale. Iconic memory is the shortest. When you look out onto a scene and then quickly shut your eyes, there is the briefest moment in which that scene is still retained in your mind before it evaporates into the darkness behind your eyelids. In order to have an experience of a visual scene, your brain needs to store the information somewhere. This is technically a form of memory, and it allows you to do things like look across the street and count the number of windows on the adjacent skyscraper. This middle-length store of memory is called working memory. This is what you can keep in mind via deliberate concentration. It is a kind of memory purgatory. It briefly holds on to the information that is too important to discard immediately, but that may not be worth keeping forever. The longest store is long-term memory. These are the things you learn today which you can still recall tomorrow, or the next day, or 10 years from now. If you repeated a phone number enough times to recall it later, it would be stored in long-term memory. How long it stays there ranges from the next few minutes or hours to the rest of your life. The reason that we forget between the stages of iconic, working, and long-term memory is clear. Not all information is useful. Some things get logged in our memories attached to strong emotion, such as surprise or awe, love or fear, a powerful signal to the brain that the event, scene, fact, or idea will in some way be essential to our survival. Other information is rehearsed naturally by means of experience. Certain events and details are repeated over time. The daily bus ride to school when you were a kid, for instance, and so they are stored in memory again and again, reinforcing their permanence. Beyond emotional cues and rehearsal, there is yet another way a piece of information may get logged in long-term memory. It is associated with conceptual information stored there. We understand it. The brain doesn't just store inert facts, which can simply be recalled or forgotten. It makes guesses about the larger conceptual story, generating assumptions and filling in the gaps as it goes, using imagination to create the whole, to build a world that we can step into. As Borges wrote, we are our memory, that chimerical museum of shifting shapes, that pile of broken mirrors. And it's true. Everything we see, do, and imagine is built upon past experience, stored in broken bits that must be reassembled again and again, reflecting our past onto the present and far into the future. So once again, the reason I chose this story is that it somewhat alleviated my concerns about my own poor memory. Another reason I like this story is it kind of reminds me of my own songwriting process and my creativity. Once again, my name is Dent May. I'm a singer-songwriter and producer from Jackson, Mississippi, now living in Los Angeles. I do have a new album out called What's for Breakfast. It's my 6th album, and I just finished North American tour, but I will be on tour in Europe and the United Kingdom this fall. Feel free to come say hello. Thank you to Nautilus Magazine for asking me to do this. I had a great time. Have a good day.